Xbox held its annual Developer Direct. Assassin's Creed Shadows previews are in the wild, and Dragon Age the Veilguard didn't meet EA's expectations. All that and more this week on Insider Gaming Weekly, a video game podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Insider Gaming Weekly, a video game podcast. I am, of course, one of the senior editors here at Insider Gaming, Mike Straw, and I am joined, as always, by my co-senior editor, Grant Taylor Hill, who hopefully isn't muted this time, and senior producer, A to the P, Albert Perkins. Guys, it's been a busy week. This is the first episode we are releasing to the masses. How you feeling?
That's what I was going to say. I was saying it's the first one we're releasing because we did one behind the scenes and it went fantastically well. I didn't spill water in my PC or anything. Apart from that, we're doing good.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right? It's going to be phenomenal. Really excited to go ahead and get our opinions out there on different topics and everything. Excited to hear what the audience thinks about our thoughts as well. It's going to be great.
It's a pack.
And I know what people are thinking. Do we need another podcast? You damn right you do, especially when it's from three great people like this. And later on, the one and only Gong Show known as Tom Henderson. You'll understand that reference when he joins the show to talk about the latest in gaming leaks and rumors. But guys, we're going to dive right in because we all play games all the time when we have free time because that's what we love. Start with you, Grant, because there's something you've been playing for a while. What have you been playing lately?
Well, I mean, for a while, I haven't been playing it for a very long time in terms of like days, but the amount of hours I've put in those days has been pretty exorbitant, we'll say. So I've been playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 because of the preview that we're running Insider Gaming right now on YouTube and on .com. And that's been absolutely fantastic. Obviously, I can't talk too much about it because the way the preview works is I'm only allowed to talk about the first like 8 or 10 hours of the game. So for that, you can check on the great video review that I put up online. Sorry, preview that I put up online, and then it's going to be the review on the 3rd of February. So stick around for that. And that has been fantastic. I love the first one, so me pulling into that has been such a natural transition. Absolutely adore it. And I've been playing Diablo 4 for the first time ever. I've never played a game. What was it? ARPG? I've never played a game from that perspective, like Path of Exile or whatever. So I've been enjoying that. New season just dropped, so I thought it was the perfect time for my wife and I actually to jump in. So that's been me for the last week. Busy.
Solid, Grant. Yeah, in terms of games for me, mostly I've been playing a lot of EA Sports College Football 25. You know, I dabbled into that whenever it was released initially. We had a whole group of us that were playing, probably about 8 of us or so. And everyone like just kind of dropped off. And it's just me and my buddy and everything. It's just my best friend. We've been playing through it and everything. I think we're on like I don't know. I want to say maybe like the 3rd season. It's going really good, having a great time with it with him. Maybe it's more suited just for the both of us to play anyways, but we're having a great time with it. And then aside from that, I've also been playing a little bit of Broforce. Of course, that was last gen. But man, that's just a game that you can just pick up and play anytime and just have a blast and laugh your ass off, essentially, right? So loving that. It's having a great time with that and everything. And looking into probably getting into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth finally here. At some point here, maybe sometime next week, maybe a couple weeks away. So gonna get into that here as well. So marathon game insights.
I've been living life playing Slay the Spire and Balatro on my RPGs or my roguelikes, sorry. And I've been playing, I don't know if you guys have played Stolen Realm. It's a co-op turn-based RPG. It came out a year ago, like March of 2024. So it released 1.0. And me and friends have been playing that for a while. I've been diving back into it because it's a great Steam Deck game. And if you haven't played that game and you're into any sort of turn-based RPG, like you talked about turn-based, I mean, you got the JRPG in Final Fantasy, Albert. This is a game where you either play by yourself, you build a team that you control, or you team up with friends. And it's just a roguelike or campaign. Like you have an option to do either or. And you build up your heroes through dozens of different classes. It's so fun. And I'm sure like
as soon as anyone says turn-based, there's something inside me that fizzles out. I hate seeing a great trailer and then it's a turn-based game. I don't know why. I don't think strategically maybe, but I'm a huge Fallout fan, right? went back to try and play the earliest Fallout games, and obviously they're turn-based. I just can't. I can't figure it out. I don't have the tactical mindset to like look ahead to my next moves, you know?
It depends to me how well it go, or like how well it's done turn-based. Like for me, but you say like you can't figure out, it's just not. That's how I usually am with first-person games. Mainly not first-person shooters, but first-person adventure games. So that's why I couldn't do an Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
Because that type of game, like that's why I like the Uncharted games. That type of game, I'm more of a, I don't want to be the character in the movie or the game. I want to control what happens as if I'm directing the camera. So like, I can't like those first person ones usually don't grab me. It takes a lot for me to grab. Like the Thief series got me, like hooked me. I had Doom has hooked me, but that's first person shooter. But like Indiana Jones, I logged into my cousin's Game Pass account, downloaded it, played it, went, can't do it. Just because it doesn't grab me, especially if they're going to use Harrison Ford's likeness. I want to see him all the time and not just in cutscenes.
Yeah. We've had mad debates over the last 2 years about your clashes with FPS games and my absolute adoration for them. We've rubbed up something fierce over the years over that. Conversation for another day. That's hot topic for another day, man.
Happen. Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to happen again. Maybe later today. Another game, Cyberpunk. I really want to love that game. I really do. But without a mod, I can't play in third person. And that's why I do love, admittedly, the Fallout games. Because I can play Fallout in third person. That's why Fallout, I'm not as into it as you are. But that's why I've always loved it.
Comes down to the personal preference.
You might be the most into Fallout I've ever met. And that's obviously, everybody loves what they love. Like, if you want to talk Heroes of Might and Magic and that franchise with me, I'll talk your ear off, but not many people will.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because the amount of people, I'm talking to people about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and they're saying, is it third person? Can I switch? Oh, do you think there's going to be a mod for third person? And I'm always surprised how many people don't want to play from the first person perspective. But did you see, when was it? A couple of weeks back, they had like the bug where the guy was playing Indiana Jones and it bugged into permanent third person, and it actually ran really well. Like, it looked great.
I feel like we'll get an update down the line. Maybe. I feel like we'll get an update because I mean, they know, like, a big thing with third person to first person, before we move on to the news we have to cover, is the idea, like, I suffer sometimes from motion sickness. I'm not the only one that does. So you're going to potentially have that issue, and by putting a game in third person and allowing you to turn motion blur off, which causes problems, it does help some people. It's a very small, but it does help. I know
what you mean. I mean, one more thing 100%. On that topic as well, and still tied to the Kingdom Come thing, there's a sequence you get really heavily drunk and the screen distorts and you're not walking straight. And I felt ill. And I'm like, and I've spent 70 hours in that game, and that one sequence, I was like, I had to sit back like this and play, like, you know, just not focus too much on the.
It's like, don't puke.
I can never get my character, even though it's not first person, I can never get my character too drunk in like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead.
The waviness throws you off. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I usually don't do that either when I play GTA. I'm like, nah, thanks. And now I also have a good friend that he likes first person games, but like you're saying, Grant, the whole motion sickness thing, it gets them and everything. So he doesn't really get too deep into it, you know. So just like his sessions are maybe like an hour tops. So yeah.
And with that, we can move on now to something that will likely lead to debate between at least two of us on this panel. Xbox Developer Direct held on January 23rd, roughly 45 minutes. We got release dates for 3 of the main games shown, a release window, and a surprise shadow drop. So quickly, we're going to go in order and kind of talk about it with what was shown. The top first thing right off the bat, there was rumors of a legendary Japanese IP returning, and that became confirmed within seconds of the show starting, as Ninja Gaiden is back. Ninja Gaiden 4 was announced for a fall release and is a co-development project of Team Ninja and Platinum Games. For me, Ninja Gaiden was a series I liked. Ninja Gaiden 3, I did not like whatsoever. So I'm excited and hopeful while still being kind of nervous of seeing what they do with 4. Grant, you had talked about in the chat, like in our IG chat, about Stellar Blade kind of getting you into this. So when you played Stellar Blade and then you see Ninja Gaiden and you see what Team Ninja and Platinum Games, which to me is a cool collab. I'm excited to see what they do. When you see Ninja Gaiden 4, what were your first thoughts when you watched that trailer?
So immediately, I knew about the whole like legendary Japanese thing because obviously we covered that in the days running up to the showcase. But when it comes up on screen, when it flashes up on screen, like, you know, I can appreciate the cinematic quality of the trailer and stuff. But I've never played a Ninja Gaiden game ever. I know there's been a few of them, but I've just never felt the pull to get into it because historically, I was never a fan of what I refer to as like hack and slash games. Probably not the right genre for it, but you know. And then I also like vehemently against difficult games. And I always thought that was one of the hardest games. I was told it was one of the hardest games you can play. So I was switched off immediately. But then Stellar Blade came out last April and I absolutely loved it. And it was the first game like that. Like, I don't play Souls-like games. I don't play anything like that where you've got big beastie bosses and, you know, like Black Myth. I don't touch those. So when Stellar Blade came out, it was surprising, but I absolutely fell in love with it because of, you know, I like the post-apocalyptic vibe and stuff. So then I see that kind of, it's a little bit of that in Ninja Gaiden. And maybe I could give it a go, but I don't know if it's one of those things where, like, coming in with game 4, you know, how much, obviously they start mentioning this, like, you know, Ryu Hayabusa and the story and the characters. I'm like, I don't know who the hell these people are. So how much am I going to miss? How much do I need to catch up on, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, on that, they did say it's a direct sequel to the third game, but I think what helps on that front, if you've missed it, you could probably just recap and read because it's set way after the fact of those games.
Okay.
In what they called a gruesomely transformed version of Tokyo. So I feel like it might be one of the games. Sure, it's a sequel, but you don't really need to go in having played any of the first 3.
They probably apply a little bit of context in there, you know. Yeah. Well, I think that's what they said in the Dev Direct. They said something like, you know, they're celebrating their 30th anniversary, and they were talking like, oh, this is for the people that have been dedicated to the franchise all this time, but also for newcomers. You know, so that's, I think it'll be easy to walk into, I guess.
Yeah, and it's tough. And Albert, let me know your thoughts. It's tough on my mind to be like, hey, you have to have played the first 3, or especially 3, when it's been 13. By the time this comes out this fall, it'll have been 13 years since Ninja Gaiden 3. So you've had like spin-offs, like the Master Collection, which is a compilation of a few games, then Ninja Gaiden Z, and like these spin-off games, but nothing
Sigma,
in the main. Yeah. You've never had these main lines. So how important is it in your mind to make sure that they make a game that can easily be jumped in, whether you're a fan of the franchise or not?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big deal because you're going to have, you know, a younger generation, you know, so to speak, diving into this. I mean, thinking back, I remember the original Ninja Gaiden whenever it dropped on Xbox. Oh my God, I think I was just a junior in college, man. It seems like an eon ago. So just to go back to this legacy is definitely going to be
21 years ago.
Oh my God. Way to make me feel old, Mike.
I was
appreciate that. Damn.
10 years old.
Oh, that's incredible. But you know, just, you know, kind of, oh man, that's insane. Insane. Oh my gosh. Like I said, I was a junior in college, and just kind of thinking back, you know, preserving the, you know, the hardcore fast action of the original series. It's, you know, it's something that I immediately noticed whenever I was watching it and everything. And, you know, whenever they showcased the gameplay for it and everything, it just looked absolutely glorious. You know, one of the things that I've always stood out to me whenever it comes to Ninja Gaiden, and, you know, when I first saw it back in my college days and everything, was just the whole fast-paced action of the game, you know, along with the whole brutality of it as well. You know, that's something that looks to be, you know, be preserved pretty well in this iteration. So I'm definitely looking forward to Ninja Gaiden 4 and checking it out. It's phenomenal.
Of course, I did talk about the Shadow Drop.
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, an Unreal Engine 5 remake of the game from 2008, so 17 years ago. Shadow Drop.
Here he goes again.
I don't like to believe that it's that long ago.
How long things have been, man.
I have to.
2008 was like 5 years ago. What are you talking about?
It feels like that. It doesn't feel like 2020 was 5 years ago. With how the longest, quickest 5 years I think I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, no
but
doubt.
An Unreal Engine 5 remake of the game from 08. how to me they said it's a great way to kill time in between now and the release of 4. Is this a game, Albert, you are tempted to go back? It's on Game Pass, so if you have Game Pass, it's right there for you. Are
That
you tempted
alone,
to go back and revisit that?
Yeah, that alone, the fact that it's on Game Pass, right away. And by the way, it's available now. So, if you want to go ahead and pick it up, you can do that with the Shadow Drop and everything. But yeah, the fact that it's available on Game Pass, that's huge. Obviously, you can just pick up and play, got your Xbox right here, right? You're good. You're straight. So, obviously.
This is an Xbox.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on.
So.
Is this an Xbox?
That's an Xbox.
That is an
little window.
Yes.
It's got a little window.
I thought you were doxing yourself there, Mike. My
no,
God.
I made sure it was an empty envelope before I picked it up.
The weirdos will be at your door.
Right?
Find me.
Nightmare.
No, but the fact that it's on Game Pass, I mean, someone can easily pick it up, especially if it's something a game that you haven't played before too. It's like, oh, I have Game Pass. I never played, Second Ninja Gaiden. I can dive into it now. Yeah,
you're describing me. You're describing me right now.
Right on.
And it's a modern one. You're not playing 2008, so you're going to get one that looks, hopefully, that looks what it should in an Unreal Engine 5.
Unreal, yes, and that's oh my gosh, love Unreal Engine, man. Looks so
elsewhere.
Good.
So after Ninja Gaiden, South of Midnight story trailer, that game, every time I see it, when it was first revealed, I was like, it's not. The more I see it, the more I think this might be one of my favorite games of the year next to Avowed, basically without playing them. Like those two games I'm looking forward to in the first chunk of this year the most. It comes out now April 8th, which April was the rumored release date for a while. It was confirmed. When the story trailer tells, the hurricane hits, it's about the deep south of the United States. Watching a catfish come up and speak, with the thickest Cajun accent I've heard outside of actually when I've been down in Louisiana.
Makes me think of Deadpool Wolverine, man.
Yeah.
I'm not doing an impression because I'll butcher that. But
oh baby, I've been waiting for this. Like I can't even do it. And it's like I've been there, I've heard it, but I need someone to come in here.
Make a name for myself.
We'll just play this out. We'll get the soundbite played over this. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll just have Gambit come in. Does South of Midnight appeal to either of you for what you're looking for in an adventure game with this type of folklore centerpiece?
I mean, I think I'd pick it up to see what the crack was, but I like the art style. It looks pretty unique on the surface, but I mean, from what I've seen, it's one of those games where it hasn't, at first blush, it hasn't pulled my attention in too much, apart from, oh, this is cool. What's it, like stop motion, isn't it, for the cutscenes and stuff? Like you don't see that. Apart from that, I couldn't even tell you too much about it, truth be told, unfortunately.
The art style to me it's kind of like when, Jet Set and these cell shaded games in the early 2000s, it's an art style that 20, 30 years from now will still look good because of it.
Yes.
The less realistic an art style is, to me, the more likely it is that it'll still look fantastic and it'll hold up.
No, I totally agree with you. The longevity of the animation and the way it looks, it's just unique. Animation like that. Kind of thinking about it. Have you guys ever seen the movie Coraline?
Yeah,
that's what.
It totally reminds me of that.
Their first game,
so cool.
Their first game, Compulsion Games, was Contrast. That came out. It was a PS4 launch title. It gave. If you look up Contrast, we'll throw it on the screen here. If you look up Contrast, it gives you that Coraline aspect, just from the art style. Like basically Coraline, just more detailed and with real eyes. Like that alone, it just fits with what they're doing. All of their games have this darker feel to it. And Compulsion, I feel, is hitting the nail on the head with this while still having some sort of light moments, at least whenever the catfish talks. I don't think I can take that catfish talking with a serious tone. Certain accents just don't work. I think there's a comedian, Shane Gillis, who brings up like Australians being goth. And he goes, I'm all dark and twisted. And I'm just like, yeah, I can't, certain things you can't take. Like, as dark, and I don't think a Cajun accent on a catfish is going to do it for me if they try and have any of these serious moments with it.
Yeah.
I'm interested in it. I'm excited for it. And I think if it's anything like We Happy Few, which We Happy Few is kind of mixed with people's reactions to it. I am excited for it. We Happy Few was a game that I really liked.
It's one of those rare games set in a fictional representation, but that's one of the rare games set over in my world, over here in the Great Britain.
Did it do it justice, do you think?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think politically we all walk around with these masks on in this country. We all act like we're loving life, but
I think that's everywhere.
Well, these days, we're not going to get too bogged down in that, though. Are
no.
we?
It's
a light-hearted video games podcast. Nothing political here, please. Until what we're touching on later on, but we'll move on to that in a bit.
Insider, yeah, we will.
We'll come across
the next. Speaking of games that kind of didn't really pull me in, they haven't yet. Maybe they will with more of a gameplay deep dive. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 also was announced a release date of April 24th. And that was a game that they announced it last year. Didn't really know what to expect. They say it will have over 30 hours of main game content and a bunch more of side game content. So it will get your money's worth. It's a Game Pass game, but if you buy it separately, I think they're charging $50 for it.
Yeah.
And the premise of the game is you only have 1 year left to live, and you're joining these fellow expeditioners with a goal to break the Paintress's cycle of death, who comes every year and gradually is killing off humanity. So the premise to me sounds interesting. Yeah. I don't know if there's enough there, though, based on what we saw with the trailer.
Yeah.
That's going to... the hell out of me.
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough there that's going to keep me, one, interested in even playing the game more than just a little bit, or two, with everything else coming around. 2025, and we'll talk about this with our next game, is such a loaded year. You have to be picky, and this is where Game Pass helps, but you have to be picky, I guess, on the games you devote your time with, because time is the most precious resource we have. And are you really going to spend it on a game that doesn't grasp?
Yeah. I mean, it looked good on the surface. Like, they obviously put a lot of time and effort into finessing the trailer they showed, or the snippets they showed. But for me, it just seems like it's a visual showcase, and then this just really overcomplicated story that I didn't really like. It reads to me like it'd be better as like a television series or something,
That's what it sounds like.
It
would be
very
great.
cinematic, isn't it? And I mean, are we all a bit tired of this whole like humanity is facing its impending doom? Let's go off with a party of whoever and save it. It's kind of been done. It's been done a few times,
and now it's starting to feel more close to real life.
Yeah, we're not going down those routes.
There he goes again.
All right,
Captain Doom and Gloom over here.
Doom? Did you say Doom?
Segue?
You mean like Doom: The Dark Ages, which was the main event of the night, of the afternoon,
for some.
Whenever you were watching it. For some, like me. Doom: The Dark Ages, confirmed May 15th release. We had reported on it in Insider Gaming, like it was leaked accidentally, definitely not supposed to, but release date leaked. They showed a new gameplay sizzle reel. It looks doomy, but they're adding things that I think might have jumped the shark, like adding mechs that are 30 stories tall. I don't need that.
Yeah.
And I know you're not a big Doom person, Grant. So I actually want your opinion before I get to Albert on this one. When you see Doom, you know what Doom is, even though it's not your cup of tea.
Yeah. I mean, you
see
can hear
it
and you know what Doom is. Those soundtracks, man, they're something.
You see them adding mechs and a dragon. What does that say to you about, like, from what Doom to be known as to seeing something like that as somebody who's kind of on the outside of it?
I mean, I think I've made, well, not to everyone else, but to you guys at least in our little community Insider Gaming team, I've made myself known that I don't like Doom. I've never given Doom the time of day, really. On the surface, to me, it looks like you just run around and hold a trigger, and that's basically the be all and end all of the game. and that's run for like the last like 30 years that way, and that's it, you know. And I see like the whole medieval thing, and that piqued my interest a bit because I like that setting. You know, that's one of the reasons why I'm falling in love with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is because it's medieval. So you think, oh, okay, cool, this might be something that speaks to me a bit, and then they bring in something like mechs, and I'm like, how does that fit? You know, and maybe there's obviously an explanation for it. There's a reason. Maybe I don't know, because the way they described it, me being an outsider, the way they described it was that like that's an established thing in the Doom universe. They've been there before or something. I don't know. So maybe it makes sense to like a Doom fan, but for me, it just completely spoiled the flow that I already wasn't enjoying. So, you know, I'm not gonna, again, Game Pass. Yeah, maybe if I had to pay for it. No.
Yeah, Albert, Grant brings up a good point. The flow of it. I feel like, hopping in a mech where the dragon is going to ruin the flow of what I want from a Doom game, right?
Yeah. I don't know if this game, I hope that this game doesn't have like some sort of identity crisis here, right? I mean, when I think about mechs and stuff, I immediately start thinking about Titanfall, you know, and that sort of thing, right? And it's like, this game's titled The Dark Ages. It's like, what part of the Dark Ages contains mechs? I don't know. I'm just a little concerned, as you know, hopefully the storyline will kind of tie into that maybe a little bit more, a little bit better, that we don't know about maybe. But, you know, I did like the idea of the fact that, you know, the game can serve as an entry point to the franchise for fans that really haven't, played Doom, essentially. You know, it's, I guess, a nice prequel to 2016 game as well. You know, the developers mentioned there as well. So I thought that was cool. And, you know, obviously the brutality's there. I like the new weapon. How about that shield saw, guys?
That looks pretty cool.
You know?
That looks awesome. I'm excited
Captain
to see
America,
what they do.
but like gory.
Yeah.
That's the real Captain America right there.
Doom guy.
I'm excited to see what ultimately becomes the BFG, because that's what I look forward to the most is getting my hands on that with every Doom game. Yeah. And one thing with Doom the Dark Ages is it won't, unlike the other ones in this new modern trilogy, it will have no form of multiplayer whatsoever.
Yeah.
And in an interview with press, you know, that Insider Gaming wasn't invited to, not bitter, executive producer Marty Stratton said that the decision was made early on to go all in on the campaign. So they ultimately ignored doing any sort of multiplayer, focused on single player, and he calls it the largest, most expansive, most epic campaign ever. And they were really happy with that decision overall. And that it was nice to have everybody on board focusing on the campaign as opposed to splitting the team to focus on single player, multiplayer. Does this to you guys show, I won't say a trust, but just that single player games aren't dead the way people think?
No, man. See, that's one of those hot, well, it's not even a hot take because it's so common that people say that. The whole thing about like exactly, people bang on our single player games are dead, and well, actually, you know what? Saying that, give credit to the argument. It's subjective, right? Like me, I was like religiously a multiplayer gamer, you know, competitive gamer, and that's how I got into the esports gig as well. And then over the years, I lost my reflexes. I fell out of it a bit. And now I play so much single player stuff. I love it. When I read about a game or I hear about a game that's coming out and they're like, oh, it's like 100-hour campaign, massive open world, single player, I'm like, oh, that's bliss. So I don't mind if games drop the multiplayer aspect to become a single player game. I'm all for that. And I don't think they're dying, because some of the biggest games that have come out of late, like Black Myth, I know Black Myth, you know, it wasn't without its, I think there were some controversies, some issues people had or whatever, but that's one of the best selling games of 2024. And it was, you know, strictly single player. And there's loads of other examples you can pull out of the hat there with that. You look back at like, I don't know, mine's blanking, but there are some. There's plenty. Yeah.
What do you think, Albert? I mean, do you think that does no multiplayer, what they're saying about this campaign, does that excite you for what Doom the Dark Ages could be?
No, I'm down for it. Absolutely. So for me, you know, and I don't know if it's the same for you guys. As an adult, man, I'm like mad busy. Like time is like freaking everything, bro. You know what I mean? Like, like I got shit happening all the time. So, you know, for me, it's like, okay, I need a game that I could just go ahead and pick up all the time. whenever I get the opportunity to play, and not necessarily have to have a crew, a squad to go along with. Because at the end of the day, a lot of my friends, they're just as busy as I am. So they're not going to have the same time to go ahead and pick up and play with me as far as like a multiplayer aspect goes. So yeah, I'm totally okay with the whole single player.
What you said about Broforce, isn't it? Games you can just pick up and dive into and have no strings attached. You play the game half an hour, you turn it off, everyone's happy.
That's why I love roguelikes. That's why you'll see me playing even games like Super Meat Boy. You'll see me playing games like Binding of Isaac still. These we're all parents. We all have kids. We all know, it's just what it is. And we'll wrap things up with a nice bow. We'll touch more on what wasn't talked about that we kind of thought might be announced later on when Tom joins us. But real quick, what were your overall thoughts on the showcase itself? Was it more than you expected, about the same, or kind of underwhelming?
I thought it was all right. Yeah, I thought it was I thought it was about what I expected. I kind of hoped it would have been a little bit longer, kind of what you're alluding to there, Mike, with some things that were maybe missing there from the show. But maybe we'll have like a future show or something down the line. I mean, we still have plenty of time in the year, obviously, since it just kicked off here. But I would have expected it to be maybe at least another 30, maybe 45 minutes longer even. I thought there maybe was enough time for at least 2 more games to be showcased anyways, but I guess it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about the same. Like, I think it could have been a bit meatier. Maybe they, like you say, they're holding stuff back for a session later in the year, but nothing in, again, I'm talking subjectively, nothing in the showcase spoke to me. So I was in and out. It was 45 minutes of just watching some trailers and stuff, and that was about it for me. So it was complete miss. If I had to grade it, what's a grading scale? A to F or something?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, I'd say it was like an E. I didn't really care for it.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a solid C.
See, I'd give it just for I'm excited about Ninja Gaiden. I like South of Midnight. The only game that was just like, man, was Clair Obscur. Like Expedition 33, just I don't think it's going to do it for me. And it's not like those aren't the type of games I usually like. It's just there's nothing pulling me in. Moving on to topic 2, because we spent a while on the Dev
Direct. Topic 2, man. We're going to have to cut out like 5 topics today. We had so much juicy news for these guys.
Totally.
Yeah, man.
Assassin's Creed Shadows previews lifted the day we're recording this, January 23rd. From a lot of people that were invited to go check the game out. Our Tom Henderson talked about there was a lot of positive buzz around it. I went through and I read a good number of these previews, and there was a few that stood out. A couple takes that were generally expressed that stood out, and a lot of it has to do with just how Naoe and Yasuke feel. The general consensus has been they feel completely different to each other, which we kind of expected and we hoped, seeing just how they look and their size. But from the movement, and it's nice to hear from the movement, the fighting, the parkour, they each feel different. Many who played the game said the combat has felt more fluid with a more variety than recent games, and that enemies weren't as the word that was used by a couple previews was spongy.
Okay.
One outlet
promising.
One outlet specifically said, Game Rant in their preview said, for Shadows, the parkour feels flashier and better than other AC open world games, but not quite as good as Mirage felt. Even finding basic outline paths for parkour was a challenge, and the architecture of Japan required a grappling hook when wanting to climb up many structures that interrupted the flow of movement. So, and then there's another one from Windows Central on the missions, but just the idea of what you're hearing, combat feels more fluid, the characters feel different, parkour is better, not as great as what the series high has been in that front due to the location. But what are your initial thoughts when you read and you heard kind of these impressions?
Well, I'm tried and tested lifelong Assassin's Creed fan. You guys know that. I love Assassin's Creed. And I think like Mirage was good, turning point for the franchise. It kind of brought back a little bit of a little bit of the old feel to it. And then obviously they now dip back to the RPG model, the huge open world RPG model that was introduced in Origins back in 2017. And that didn't sit well with a lot of people. One of the reasons being that it did change, like you say, spongy enemies. It did kind of change that up, and you were now just hacking away at enemies for ages, and especially the bosses and the stronger characters, you'd have to utilize all these tools and different weapons and things. And it was felt like a bit of a slog. It really did. So the fact that they've made it more fluid speaks well to me. The whole duality thing with, like Yusuke being like, he's heavy, he's slow, he's strong, and then is it, I don't know how you pronounce her name, Naue?
Yep.
Naue. You know, she's lithe, she's agile, she's acrobatic, she's flying around the map. That's great, and that's a throwback, I think, to Syndicate, where those two characters, it was a duality again, male, female, brother, sister. That's not the case this time, but you know, they got that duality there. So I like that, and that reads obvious. It's obvious, you know. So I think that's good. The first impressions, the preview stuff it's great. It's what I was hoping for it, and it's what I've heard as well. You know, is that this is one of the better. I think it's because they took some time. You know, Valhalla came out years ago. Was it 2020, 2021? I think Valhalla came out a very long time ago in the grand scheme of things with Assassin's Creed. We never had a gap this long between, like, if you don't count Mirage as a major release, we've never had a gap this long between major Assassin's Creed games. So I'm hoping they've used that time. They've used these two pushbacks to really finesse it, and the previews speak honestly to the final product, and we finally have an Assassin's Creed game that everyone loves again.
What do you think, AP?
I love it. Gee, that's some really great points there. So for me, you know, I haven't been on Assassin's Creed in a minute. For me, it was kind of like saturation overkill. It's just like, okay, this is a little bit too much. I think the last one, I played, it's been a minute. I think it might have been 3. I'm not even kidding you. It's been a
three was good though.
Time, but 3 was good. 3 was good.
3 is what killed me from the franchise.
No kidding.
By the time the story got good, it was over.
Yeah. Yeah, I
mean,
could see
they
that.
had their trilogy, you know, they had their little mini saga.
Yeah, I don't know. 3 kind of killed it for me, and I'm hoping this is what comes back. My biggest problem is always, and I think I touched on it when we were doing our preview episode and stuff like that, that if you were a member of the Insider Gaming forums, you would have got to pre-screen. So go there and sign up, insider-gaming.com/forum. Cheap plug there. My always thing has been missions. Like, how do the missions feel? Like, what is the variety of them? How many trailing missions are there? How many escort missions? How many are go find? Like, how many of them are repetitive? And Windows Central in their preview said missions and point of interest require careful investigation, including building up a network of spies and informants to help you track down your next objective. Items that do appear on your map tend to be more interesting, including contracts, side missions, and extremely valuable treasures. I hear that and I go, maybe this is what gets me. Maybe if there's a variety in missions and it requires you to do more than just follow this guy for 10 minutes or climb up this ladder for 20 minutes. I know hyperbole, but
that's a tall ass ladder. Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, the ladder in the tunnel.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. But if that's what it's going to be more like, that gets me more enticed to give this a shot.
Yeah. We talk about the Ubisoft formula all the time. We're going to go around and get those synchronization points and open all the chests and all that stuff. But they did drive away a little bit. So we're talking about the repetitiveness. One thing that I always hated was the forced stealth. I hate forced stealth in a game. If it's like, don't get detected, or we'll be
you like to have a choice.
Hate it. So they did away with that from like Syndicate onwards. And if you got detected, say you were following someone and they caught you, it would just change the parameters, and it now changed into a chase, you know, and things like that. So you're allowed to not really follow the rules as much. And I like it because when they did that, they started to introduce a bit more of an open-ended style of play.
Yeah.
And before we move on to story number 3 of the week, one thing that really seems cool to me, I'm a big fan of immersion, and everybody talked about this immersive mode that the game is going to have, where it sounds simple and small, but it does so much, is that if you have it on, you'll hear characters throughout the game speaking in their native language.
Oh, that's amazing.
To me, that's kind of cool. I don't need to understand what every NPC is saying. If there's a live world around me and they're talking and they're speaking in Japanese or whatever it may be, like, to me, that's cool.
Yeah, that adds to the immersion.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how they do that, because actually, the animus. So if I'd see how they're tying it into the modern age, because that's always the thing in these Assassin's Creed games. What does the modern bit look like? Because they've always got it. Well, usually they do. They haven't had it in every game, but I think in the very first game they explain that the animus has a translation mechanics built in, and that's why everyone speaks English in these games. They were clever. So I'm interested to see how that ties in with the whole, are they still sitting in an animus thing, or are we just having like they've done away with modern day and it's now just entirely a historical exploration? Because before we were like, oh, this is your ancestor and you're going through their memories, but now there's two. It made sense with the Fry twins because they were two, but they were twins.
Yeah.
So, well, that doesn't make sense, really, does it? Never mind.
I'm interested though to see how it plays out, because I like the idea of like if they're out of it and they're just in the world, or maybe it's just something that turns on to allow you to maybe blend into the environment. I don't know. I'm excited. That excites me. Those little things excite me. So we'll see what happens, as long as it doesn't. And based on everything, it's not going to be delayed again. March 20th, it will launch. Fingers crossed, it's not delayed for a third time. But if it does get delayed,
you'll hear it first on InsiderGaming.com.
Oh, probably right. The Ubisoft 100%. News capital of the world and that might be why we weren't invited, to preview the game. But that's okay. That is okay. That comes with the business of being insider gaming. Moving on to the next topic here. Story number 3, Dragon Age, the Veilguard. EA announced in their preliminary Q3 fiscal year 2025 earnings that the game missed expectations, and didn't miss them by a little bit. 50% they missed. Yeah. They said they had 1.5 million players play the game, missing their target by 50%. So they did not, they still made solid money back, but for how much this game cost?
What are we saying? 250 million was the rumor, I think.
Yeah. The first thing that came to mind, I read this, and they announced it ended up knocking down their net bookings. And it's not just Dragon Age. They said EAFC fell short too, but EAFC 25 still made a boatload of money, just not the usual boatload of money. The main story is the Veilguard, the first Dragon Age game in 10 years. And immediately all it did, and I knew it was going to happen when I read it, was all the grifters and those types of people came out pulling their I told you so cards, completely invalid I told you so cards of reasons why the game didn't do as well, when it could have just come down to two things in my mind. EA having too much stock and hope for this franchise as a whole that shouldn't have been there, because they want to they have a tendency, a lot of these execs have a tendency to, even if it's a niche game or just like a cult like game franchise, like thinking it's just going to blow up like everything. A mix of that, and maybe just sometimes the game's just not good. There's no underlying reason as to what it's just not that great of a game, and nothing that, especially in a day when games are as expensive they are, and you want people to spend $70, or as some analysts hope, 80 to 100, clowns. They want you to, they're a lot more picky on what they spend their time with. And if a game doesn't pull them in by what they've seen in the buildup, they're not going to give it a chance. And that's just kind of where we're at. It's kind of like that mix of two. So when you guys saw this, what did you think? Aside from, oh, here we go with the grifters.
Always with the grifters, man. They're always going to come out the woodwork. I mean, I wasn't too well versed on it because I've only ever played Inquisition and I haven't finished Inquisition. So I'm not the best placed person to speak about, the legitimacy of the game in terms of it being a good Dragon Age game. I know that people said the writing was terrible. It didn't do much to call back to previous titles. So it felt to some like it was a bit of a reboot in a way. And then people say, the whole woke argument comes up, as it always does, and people say, there's nothing offensive in it, and there's no hatred or hostility between factions, and there's no like substance, and there's no role play elements. The dialogue is weak, and there's all these answers that people have for why it failed. But the people did heavily lean on the woke thing and the whole like forced AI, which is such a topic these days. It really is. Feels like we just can't escape it. And as soon as someone says, "Oh, there's a stat being thrown around on social, like 30,000 refunds of the game in a day. And people saying like GameStop is like overflowing with refunds and they've got stock everywhere and they have to discount it and all these crazy things. And everyone always goes back to like, oh, it's because it's woke. Go woke, go broke. That's what everyone's saying these days.
So the GameStop thing always makes me laugh because I'm pretty sure GameStop's policy is the same it's always been. Once you take that plastic off a new game, you can't return it.
Well, they trade in,
but there's no refund. And as soon as you open that plastic, it's like a car. That game is worth $30.
Yeah, yeah.
So whatever.
As soon as you drive it off the lot,
Like, so there's no refunds. Like
EA. And then I saw a comment from David Gaiden, the series creator, and he said like that people that were perpetuating these claims online. He was saying they were like effing tourists, you know, and the Dragon Age has been like woke all along, is what he was suggesting. And these guys are coming in and thinking like this is a first time thing. But you can dive into the weeds about that until the cows come home. You're not going to argue with these people. You're not going to change their mind. That's why they think it failed. Yeah. But for me, I'm more leaning towards, you know, Dragon Age fans, like you said, Mike, it was too long. They put too much stock in it, and what ended up being delivered wasn't well written and wasn't well represented.
Yeah, and it's clear that EA's investors didn't like it either because today their stock dropped 17%.
Damn.
The decrease it resulted in about $6 billion with a B in value being knocked off its market value, the lowest point in the last 12 months.
Wow.
As Tom put on social media, that is it lost the equivalent of multiple Ubisofts, and which is just incredible to see. But the game, I mean, they expected around 3 million or so sold. It sold 1.5 per their numbers. Inquisition sold 12 million copies. Anthem sold 2 million copies, and that was viewed as a colossal failure.
2 million in a week.
Yeah,
in a week. And that was viewed as a failure.
And so imagine, I mean, to me, does this, before we move on, does this sound like a death knell for the Dragon Age franchise?
It might be the beginning of the end. Yeah, it might be the beginning of the end whenever especially when you lay out all those other games in comparison to that. It's like, the writing might be on the wall there for that one, man. That's super unfortunate. That's too bad.
And I'll say something. People are now not hopeful for Mass Effect. You know, which is coming, you know, because that was pushed back because Veilguard was delayed and whatnot. So that had a knock-on impact. And people are saying that it's the exact same thing, man. Exact same thing with the amount of time it's taken between Andromeda and the next game. People are falling out with it. And they're expecting the same writing, the same issues to flow into Mass Effect. It's basically the same team, same brand.
Yeah, and we can't spend much time on any time really right now on the gap between games, but that's a conversation for another episode.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just the gap in games causing fandoms. It's not every game's a GTA where it doesn't matter how long it's going to be. Some franchises will fizzle out entirely because you take too long.
And when you have, you know, year-long gaps between trailers, people can sometimes get a bit itchy about things, you know.
Just
Rockstar, what's going on, man?
Smidge.
Let's move to something more happy before we get to bringing in Tom. We're going to move on to a competition for you guys, a nice little game for our listeners. We're going to play right now some snippets from 3 different games. Just some songs from 3 games. And we want you to email us at podcast@insider-gaming.com with your answers of what games these are from. Each right answer you put will get you entered into a pool to win the game of your choice in a future raffle. So there's 3 each week, give or take each week. We're going to have 3 songs, short 10-second snippets, and your goal is to email us, again, at podcast@insider-gaming.com, and let us know what games those are from. So without any more delay, before we move on, let's hear those sounds. And now it's time for everybody's favorite segment. We have And again, if you've listened to the preview, if you remember the Insider Gaming forums, you'll understand why I called him earlier the Gong Lord, and you'll understand it right
0.
now at this moment. For the first time for public release, the faceless one, Tom Henderson. Tom, welcome. Hello. How are you?
I'm good, man. These intros are going to get better and better as this podcast progresses, and I'm so looking forward to it.
I have to come up with some sort of anecdote every single week now. That's like a goal.
Yeah. It put a smile on my face. But if people don't know, I listen to the podcast live behind the scenes. I'm just lurking in the shadows as always. And I just need to say, what was the A to F rating all about with the Xbox Direct? Like, Grant, you gave it an E?
No, I gave it an F.
No, you gave it an E.
Was it an E?
You said E, bro.
Which we don't even give out.
I
American
meant F.
schools. An E is so bad, it's not even given. It goes from
Off the
D to
scale.
F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you give it, Albert?
I gave it a C. I thought it was about average, you know.
And Mike, you gave it a C as well, right?
No. I gave it like a B plus.
Yeah. I think it was B plus.
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Tell us why, Tom. Yeah.
Tell you why. Because it made me look like a fool on Twitter.
Why? What happened?
There are more surprises coming.
Yeah, so I'll give some context for people who perhaps don't follow me over there. But as the developer direct was going on, we first got the 2 surprises with Ninja, and then I tweeted out that there was more surprises than that, because from behind the scenes we heard that there was going to be a couple more surprises, that being Final Fantasy 16 and something related to Gears of War. Not necessarily a Gears of War E-Day, but rather it was going to be either the collection or a remaster of one of the original games. What people don't realize is that when we are doing these events and we're all typing away, trying to cover it as much as possible, at the same time I'm also getting a lot of people sending me DMs and sending me emails and text messages saying this and this is coming, and I just got caught up in all of the hype, and the first 2 predictions were right, so I kind of jumped the gun a little bit and made myself look a little bit stupid online, which is what we all like to do these days, I guess.
So what were some of the, if you can, what might have been some of what maybe rumblings you're hearing, maybe franchises, types of games or anything like that you can kind of talk about?
Yeah, for this specific direct, it was just Final Fantasy 16 and something related to Gears of War. Thinking about it now, and a few people did tweet at me this as well, is are they saving it for the Nintendo Direct in April, I believe it's going to be, where they're going to reveal the Switch 2? Or are they just waiting a little bit longer? Because from what I know, and now granted, I've got to be honest, when it comes to Xbox leaks specifically, I'm not that big on it. Like, I don't really have many sources over there. I've done theories. I did a Inside the Gaming article, I think it was a couple of months ago, about how leaks happen and stuff like that, and primary sources, secondary sources, even third-hand sources. And when it comes to Xbox, I mainly speak to secondary and third-hand sources. So it's a little bit weird, and I've always found Xbox leaks a little bit weird online, because it seems that information spreads between everyone, right? So when a direct or something comes along, there's a very good chance that whatever is going to be released is circulated online. So those are the 2 that I heard. I'm hearing that they are pretty much ready to be announced, but when that's going to be remains to be seen. I think that probably because they had such a big direct in terms of the games that are releasing in such a short space of time, because now we've got Avowed, Doom, South of Midnight, probably a few others that I'm missing, that are all releasing in the space of 3 to 4 months. It makes you think, are they just waiting for some of those announcements, especially when they are likely coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 as well?
Yeah, it's pretty much a given though. We're going to get Final Fantasy 16 on Xbox soon.
Mhm.
It was released 2 years ago almost. It was released on PC in the fall, last fall. It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of when, not if. And Gears, they'd be smart to get as many people excited about Gears, especially with Gears E-Day, whether it comes later this year or early next. Like, get people back to that franchise. That kind of, we talked about gaps between games. It's kind of fallen off in terms of what people like, just the popularity of it.
Mm-hmm. But I do want to say as well that I'm very impressed with Xbox this year.
Me too.
The lineup so far already is looking phenomenal, and then we still got even some of the bigger bangers with I mean, Call of Duty, right, later this towards the end of the year, and then possibly Gears E-Day could be towards the end of the year or even the beginning of next year. But yeah, for me that Direct was a very strong one. It was probably the best one that they've done. And if they had a few more announcements in there, and then they did what they typically do with these big showcases, where they then have like a 20 to 25 minute indie showcase where there's a few indie games, this could have easily been something much bigger, in my opinion.
I think, and you talked about how big Xbox, before get to another rumor, we talked about Xbox having a big year. We're still, last we knew, I don't know if it's going to happen, Fable is still supposed to launch this year. I don't know where these games are going to fit in.
Yeah.
Especially we've had the story, like everybody's waiting on Rockstar to come out.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm kind of inclined to believe that is what Xbox and probably, well, the entire industry, right, is now waiting on, is when is GTA 6 coming out? There's a lot of suspicion that it might be delayed into 2026. I'm not saying that I've heard that or whatever before. Do not put me on Reddit.
Oh, here we go.
No.
You're about to get quoted.
No.
Gonna drop your tear down at this rate.
But yeah, I just strongly suspect that it is going to be delayed, and that's just purely based on the history of Rockstar games. There hasn't been a Rockstar game, especially in the past decade, that, I mean, there's only been 2, right? But that hasn't been delayed. And there is the argument that they announced 25 to kind of get around that. But I just with the way that the climate is and everything going on in the industry, I've just got this feeling that it's going to get pushed back.
That's what Zelnick was saying there, wasn't it? Zelnick was saying they want it to be absolutely perfect. They don't want to take any risks, any issues, you know.
Yeah.
And if it does get delayed, let's stop people now from going in and see, we told you it was going to be delayed. I told you my reports from, a year ago were right, from spring 2024, as if a decision was made then. If it's going to be delayed, the decision would have been made maybe like within the 3 months prior to
internal meetings and such. Where we at?
The former dev, Obiv, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Obiv Amij. I don't know if I'm butchering his name. I apologize because I love you. You're fantastic. He's given all these insider insights into the development cycles and stuff at Rockstar, and he said they won't know if it's going to be delayed till like weeks before they,
Yeah. And that's not just Rockstar, right? That's pretty much every game in the industry. They don't know this stuff until before release. Assassin's Creed Shadow is a prime example of that. They didn't know until it was announced because it just needed. Obviously, the first delay was mainly due to Outlaws underperforming, and they then reviewed Shadows and thought, right, let's kind of step up our game a little bit, and that's probably one of the better decisions that they've made in the past 3 or 4 years. But the second one in particular, they didn't know until they knew. So yeah.
The other rumor that we'll talk about here involves a Nintendo Switch, and it comes from a place we kind of weren't expecting, as Newegg, the US e-tailer, PC Parts, they updated their store page for Nintendo eShop gift cards, and in it, the description mentioned 2025 games that were coming. And it mentioned Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which we all kind of knew, new Mario Kart, which was basically confirmed in the Switch 2 reveal trailer, but then they mention a new 3D Mario and Legend of Zelda Remake Remaster coming this year. It feels like, well, no duh, a new 3D Mario, it's kind of what they do. The 3D Mario will drop probably sometime in the fall, kind of like how Odyssey did in 2017. But were you surprised that this type of leak? Nintendo has been terrible at containing anything the past 7 months when it comes to anything Switch 2 related. So were you surprised that maybe a leak like this comes out from a store known for selling computer parts as opposed to, and is this believable to you?
I actually was surprised, to be honest, because Nintendo are genuinely pretty good at hiding their software announcements. I mean, before the release, we always see the games 2 or 3 weeks before release, right? They always get leaked and whatnot. But yeah, it was definitely surprising. But to see Zelda, a Zelda remake, that was even more surprising to me. But thinking about what Nintendo potentially has to launch with the Switch 2, I think it's kind of needed. I'm not well versed on Pokemon. I'm not entirely sure if there's a new Pokemon that's potentially been leaked to release alongside it.
We have put Pokemon Legends ZA that's coming out this year, but that is going to be, from all reports and rumors, a Switch 1 game that just you can play on the Switch 2.
Yeah. So it was surprising, but kind of not surprising in the sense that they do need some bigger hits with the Switch. I mean, the Switch 2 is going to sell millions regardless, right? Just like GTA would, regardless if that's going to be polished or not. But just to bolster up their day one offering on the Switch 2, it makes sense to do some of this potentially. I'm not necessarily saying it's easier than a new game, but because we know from remakes in the past that it is kind of building it from the ground up, but to already have that foundation laid there, it makes sense that they would do something like that. But the question is, which Zelda would you like to see remade?
I have 2, and if there's anybody on this podcast I think that will speak on Zelda, it might be me. Either, and everybody says it, Twilight Princess or Wind Waker need to be one. Need to be. It needs
Wind
to
Waker
be
for me.
It needs to be. Like,
Wind Waker is such a good game.
Someone brought up the idea of why not do a full-on rebuild, because we've seen somebody rebuild Ocarina of Time in Unreal Engine on YouTube. Why not just do a full-blown? We've seen like little HD remasters for DS back in the past. Why not do a full-blown remake of one of the original most successful Zelda of all time before the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom games came out? But I think Wind Waker would be my number 1, followed by Ocarina of Time and then Twilight Princess.
I think I need to drop a revelation. I have
don't say it.
Don't played a single minute of a Legend of Zelda game.
All right, you have to play. My God. You have to play at least one Zelda game in full if you're going to go to Gamescom.
Yes,
that's your challenge.
A very good stipulation.
By August,
I think if it was going to be any, it'd be Breath of the Wild, because I don't want to play one of the old ones, man.
I don't.
Were they turn-based?
I don't want to get off. No, none of them.
I'm thinking Pokemon. I haven't played Pokemon really, but I'm thinking Pokemon.
One also, and this will get me crap, I do not like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom because I think the art style is downright awful for what they chose. It's so watered down in watercolor like a toddler's painting that I played the games because I need to play the games, but I do not like how they look. And I've had friends yell at me for that, like in my own group, and I expect someone to yell at me for that for this too, now that it's all on the internet now. So that's going to be
straw over here.
Listen, Mr. Never Played, you have till August. There are ways to play these games.
So now I've got to play Legend of Zelda and Doom and Ninja Gaiden.
No, you just got to play. You just got to play Legend of Zelda at this point. That's the one. The game's 40 years. The franchise is 40 years old. Play a game from it.
Rite of passage, isn't it? How can I call myself an insider? How can I be a This is going to get those.
A gamer. That's what I was going to say.
You're going to tell me next. You're going to tell me next you never played Minesweeper?
I don't get Minesweeper. It's like Sudoku, isn't it? With the little numbers and the... I don't know.
Right,
man.
we need to
know,
please.
Okay.
I'm
Alright.
like, I've never, okay. The Zelda thing has basis because until we got a Switch, I never even owned a Nintendo console in my life. You know, I was a Sega kid,
Friends
and then I
or
was a
anything?
PlayStation kid.
Just going back to worse.
I can't. All right. Thank you, Tom. We will talk to you next week. It's been swell. Go wash the stench of Grant the Zelda-less one out of your ears. And we will
All
talk
right.
to you next.
I am
Yeah.
Zelda.
Cheers, guys, and Grant.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, Tom.
Love it. And Grant at the end.
That was
Yeah.
Tom Henderson, Insider Gaming's editor-in-chief, co-owner, the Enigma. And with that, it is time to wrap up this episode of Insider Gaming Weekly, the debut public episode. Grant, Albert, where can the good people of the World Wide Web find you guys
Well,
for all your terrible takes?
yeah.
Not saying mine are great, because mine are the worst.
Yeah, man, for terrible takes and to mock me for apparently not having played a series that's been around for 10 years longer than I've been on the planet. You can look me up on Twitter, X, Elon Musk's X, at Nukov with an underscore, or on twitch.tv at Nukov with an underscore. Gotta get that underscore in there, but that's me. AP, where are you at, buddy?
Yeah, man. You can find me over on X. You can find me at Weekly Wrap Up, I should say. Excuse me, at Weekly Wrap Up. Also over on Insta with the same handle there as well. And I'm also over on Blue Sky at Albert Perkins. And if you want to follow my YouTube channel, I'm on YouTube there. Got a small following. We'll see what happens. Whatevs. At the Weekly Wrap Up there. Just check me out.
And me, of course, I am at Mike Straw Media everywhere. And you can follow Insider Gaming at Insider Gaming IG on Twitter. We are on Blue Sky, insider-gaming.com, on Threads, Insider Gaming IG, YouTube, Insider Gaming IG. Everywhere you can find us, we are at. And of course, the main website, insider-gaming.com, for the latest in exclusive gaming news, reviews, inside information, and more. Grant, AP, it's been fun, and now it's time to say so long.
Mm-hmm.
We're out.
And
I
was going to say AP, man.
It's you.
You know
It's
it.
you.
You know
Wrap
it.
it up.
Gotta do the line, man.
All right, guys. For Grant, Mike, and Tom, I'm your host with the most, A to the B, Albert Perkins, and we will see you on the inside.